After tackling its bosses in weeks past, Alex and I were stuck with no choice but to rank the Galaxies of Mario Galaxy as well. The multi-leveled, multi-planet, gravitational-based galaxy system was a world design like no other, and gave new life to the divisive three-dimensional Mario series of the time.
We'll try to keep things fairly brief for the most part, since with a whopping 41 galaxies not counting Grand Finale, there's a lot of ground to cover here. We do count the Gateway Galaxy, however, although only the introductory star and not the Red Star segment you can access later for hopefully obvious reasons. With the guidelines set, let's get things started. A funny thing about the way our videos are structured is that we start off with a short spiel talking about how much we love the game we're covering, and then immediately transition to dumping on whatever the worst thing in our ranking is. I mention this because this is one of those cases where I really hate the bottom entry, so I'm gonna sound pretty harsh even though I love the game overall. To put it bluntly, this Galaxy is one of the most boring, irritating, tedious levels in any platformer I have ever played. I am by no means a patient man, and this Galaxy makes a show of making me suffer for it. Nothing about waiting for 100 years for electric crap to move out of the way so I can get through is fun or fast-paced, and each death makes me feel more impatient to get it over with, creating a vicious cycle. I pretty much never died in my entire playthrough save for here and Slingpod Galaxy, both of which loom miles above everything else in difficulty for no good reason. The patronizing too bad message is funny in most cases, but here it just made me want to crush my Wii with a sledgehammer. The bubble isn't an inherently bad mechanic, but its use here transcends beyond the frustrating but harmless endgame challenge trope into the domain of mean-spirited drivel. A game punishing you for going too fast is annoying but understandable, but a game forcing you to go slowly is horrible game design. The best part about the Mario Galaxy games is being able to long jump, wall jump, and backflip your way around a world however you see fit. You want to feel like you're flying around and doing crazy stuff. Sadly, the only crazy thing to be found here is the astonishing lack of insight on the part of the level designers.
Reusing bosses? Sure. Reusing entire galaxies? Not gonna fly. Gold Leaf boils down to a mirrored, uglier, less interesting, more frustrating variant of Honey Hive. Obviously, they didn't straight up copy and mirror Honey Hive Galaxy by the pixel, and they did have the means to change the stars, but the individual stars themselves are nothing short of terrible. The only one I'd say I enjoy is the bell on the big tree. Why? Well, I can do it in 30 seconds and not have to burn my eye holes staring at this nasty slosh of a galaxy. I love the B Mario Tower, said nobody ever, and having to slog through that with the gratuitous bonus of playing as B Mario is up there alongside getting shrapnel blown up your urethra as one of the most unenjoyable experiences possibly attainable by a human being. At least they had the decency to put, well, I guess a decent boss and underground gunner at the end, but having to replay When It Rains It Pours on 3 separate occasions was a bit extreme, especially the Cosmic Mario race. I think it was pretty demeaning for Nintendo to essentially repaste an entire galaxy as endgame filler. It being in the engine room was questionable, and it feels dull even in comparison to its honey-themed brothers.
This galaxy is good for two things: starbit farming and extracting visceral whales of torment from hapless players. The amount of times I died trying to get between those fire bars at the end is staggering. Here's a nice little montage to show just how brutal this galaxy is. This galaxy isn't even really poorly designed and isn't objectively bad, but this is our subjective list, and we both think this annoying ass level and stupid gameplay mechanic can piss off and burn in hell.
I will be as surprised to wake up in the morning as I will be when I see people complaining about this selection. Alex hates the bunnies, and I don't particularly like them either, so for easiness sake, Snowcap gets the shaft. I think the mechanic of moving the snow through the star cursor is somewhat neat, but at the end of the day, it's the same old, boing, boing, whatever he says, you run around for 150 seconds and try to snatch the rabbits. It is a damn shame this thing's not only a hungry Luma, but the one for the garden. 1600 starbits for this junk is a straight up scam. Still, I can understand why people don't think of this thing too negatively, so feel free to sound off in the comments and give your take if you'd like.
This level is just way too long to be fun. A forgivable sin in many cases, but not when paired with the use of Spring Mario, a quote-unquote power-up hailing from the darkest depths of hell. In this form, Mario moves about as precisely as a quadriplegic drunkard, making the plotting and dull elevator sequence infinitely more so. Rather than a passionate hatred, this Galaxy falls more into the camp of callous distaste for me.
Well, at least the name's pretty spot on. Scaling the sticky wall manages to be the odd mixture of boring, annoying, downright obnoxious, and relaxing. Keep in mind I haven't seen Resistance, but from the short bits I have seen, I think those adjectives make it a fair comparison. A 3-stage mesh of honeycomb-infested walls is basically all I can say about it. The first one is easy as pie, the second is full of meteors so you can understand what went wrong, and the third is a swinger's island of mana bugs. The unconventional gravity mixed with decently common dribble makes this thing best described as hot trash.
Why did they make this place so big? Water traversal is slow as molasses, so it makes absolutely zero sense to cover an entire planet in it, then demand you go all over the place like in that Silver Stars level. That one took me like 20 minutes, which is about 20 minutes longer than I wanted to spend here. Getting up the tree was a huge pain in the ass, and having to go all the way back to regain B Mario was a load of shit. I also hate B Mario more than any other transformation in the game, but I'll touch on that later. This Galaxy's first 2 stars are pretty painless, so it's not irredeemably bad, but the last one is far too time-consuming and boring for my taste.
$600 star bits? Yeah, sure, why not? I stand by my opinion that Hungry Luma should have been the best this game has to offer, and as you can see, we're already through half of them. If King Fin is your jam, then you'd probably enjoy Giant Eel Outbreak a decent amount, but both Alex and I just thought this was a total throwaway. 3 Gringos is not much of an outbreak to be honest, and doubling down the planet is loaded with red shells, making it even easier to play pest control. I like the name Torpedo Ted, just wanted to say that.
For all the bitching and moaning I've done so far, it may come as a shock that I actually kinda like this Galaxy. I don't particularly have an issue with the Starball levels, and Rolling Gizmo, while pretty difficult, falls cleanly into that category I mentioned way back in the Bubble Blast Galaxy segment of frustrating endgame challenges. I don't mean frustrating in a negative way though, I think this is actually frustration done right. It's the kind of frustration that pushes you to beat the level and rewards you with satisfaction when you pull it off. Jack might not agree with me on this entirely, hence his ranking being a bit lower than mine, but I think that Rolling Gizmo is a tricky but fair challenge to test your skill with the Starball.
We both like Loop-de-Loop, it's harmless and easy. Loop-de-Swoop, on the other hand, is just stupidly hard. I remember hating this thing as a kid because the Wii's motion controls were too heavy, and now the switches are too light. The turns just simply don't work, but at least they knew what they had created and chucked in like a dozen 1-up mushrooms. Whenever I do this in, say, a minute 10 give or take, I feel really good about myself, and then as if the man upstairs is telling me to know my place, Pack Attack's 47-second run of Fideppides pops up on my recommended tab like almost every time I open up YouTube. I don't care.
I did say I hated B Mario, didn't I? I think this Galaxy is generally liked, but I think I can make a pretty decent case for it sucking. Honeyhive is 100% geared around B Mario. B Mario sucks. He sucks because he is slow and removes your ability to long jump and backflip, which are the best things about Mario Galaxy to me. Losing those for the ability to fly for a minuscule period of time at a slow pace is a horrible trade. That's like taking a cancer patient off life support and ripping out his IVs, then tossing him a cookie as if that makes it square. If you enjoy the flight mechanic, that's fine. But to me, it's too short and weak to feel at all fun, and a Galaxy based around it is bound to fall flat.
Rolling in the Clouds has to be one of the most iconic early game stars in either of the Galaxy games, but iconic doesn't necessarily mean good. I'll play devil's advocate in this situation and say that the motion controls aren't half bad, nonetheless its tight spaces, large holes, and flock of Goombas make Rolling Green Galaxy a lot less enjoyable than it could have been.
Boo Mario is my favorite transformation in the game, so it stands to reason I'd like a Galaxy where you just race someone in it. Boo's Boneyard just feels like a fun challenge using a, in my opinion, underutilized mechanic. Jack doesn't like this galaxy nearly as much as me, so there's probably some issue with it that's not too glaring, but I'd still give it solid marks personally.
There's nothing to be said that hasn't already been said. It's loop-de-swoop minus the hard part, and it's a pretty relaxing star to be frank. Nothing blatantly wrong with loop-de-loop, more so it feels drab and more of a lesson than a level.
This is the smallest galaxy in the game and accordingly one of the shortest to beat. I like the flip switches a lot and like how they work, so this is right up my alley. Obviously, it's not that interesting, but it's a fun little planet, I suppose.
I actually like the shrinking tiles a lot. That being said, it's not much of a hurry or a scurry, and I'm serious with this. If the notes made out a theme from the game, I think this galaxy would be higher up. But as it stands, it's pretty much a minute-long dash to switch from F to A key that's too easy to feel satisfying.
I think it's sort of odd how many of the Hungry Luma galaxies are water levels. Well, I guess it's only like 2 of them, but it's kind of weird that there's more than one. This one has a cool ghostly vibe to it that elevates it far beyond the mediocrity of Drip Drop Galaxy though. I like how the star is right where you land, but you gotta break it out of the chest by tracking down the gold shell, which is a very aesthetically pleasing item, I must say. It's as simple as collecting some star chips, so it's not winning any contests, but it's neat enough to deserve a passing nod.
I bet almost all of you were waiting or even expecting this galaxy to be much farther down, which is, for one, totally reasonable, although truthfully, Alex and I both like the mechanic, and Bubble Blast was just a terrible use of it. It's not really a form of gameplay meant for challenge, rather puzzle and slow-paced timing, i.e. this galaxy. The overall design of launch stars is neat, and the counterintuition of this level as a whole, with it having you go opposite the intended route, is a point in its favor. We're hitting the zone of world design where there's minimal bad qualities, which speaks volumes to the overall game.
Up till now, I think I've been able to put up a pretty reasonable case for my placements. Sadly, I don't think I can really do the same here. While Beach Ball ended up in the middle thanks to Jack's ranking, I personally dislike it. Why that is, not even I know. Maybe because it's a water level? I don't know, I just find it boring. Only props I'll give is that Stone Cyclone planet is cool, even it ended up becoming obnoxious in Galaxy 2. Also, the eels scared the hell out of me as a kid. I just refused to play this galaxy out of fear and made someone else do it. Maybe there's some weird Freudian psychology reason explaining why I don't care for this one, but I sure couldn't tell you.
It goes without saying the red star isn't a point for or against this galaxy. Save for the red star, Gateway is the most memorable level in gaming for me. About 10 years back, I saved up my birthday money for my party knowing I'd have just enough to get a used Mario Galaxy, which at the time sold for like $40-something at GameStop, which is also totally ridiculous. Sure enough, I had about $45 and got Galaxy along with Real Football 2009 for my DSi. I went home that night, slipped the disc into my white Wii, and took in the sheer euphoria of chasing around rabbits for a Power Star. I tried my best to not let nostalgia interfere with the ranking, and rightfully so, Gateway is a pretty average galaxy from a gameplay standpoint, so cheers to mediocrity.
I expected this one to wind up higher before we ranked the galaxies officially, but we realized that other than the awesomeness of Bouldergeist, this galaxy is pretty average. I enjoy it, I'd say, but it's not a revolutionary thrill ride or anything. I like the first level since you get to use Boo Mario, and the second is sort of like a lamer Boo's Boneyard Galaxy, but the third has some issues. Bouldergeist is awesome, but the lead up to him is pretty boring in my opinion. Overall, a very middle-of-the-road galaxy with some nice spooky music.
Alex had a very pleasant experience with Deep Dark, and I did not. A perfect middle ground at 20th place, Deep Dark just didn't mix well with me. I can understand why Alex enjoys it as much as he does. There's a lot to like through progression and gameplay, and beauty is in the eye of the beholder, so what can I say? But personally, I just hate how it looks. Overexposure is the likely root of my disdain. In the past 2 months, I had to 1. Beat it normally, 2. Replay it for Galaxy footage, 3. Replay it for Camilla, 4. Replay it for Camilla footage, and 5. Beat it again as Luigi for all 240 stars. If it was like Bouldergeist, I wouldn't make a point of refighting him, but it's Camilla, so it made my experience that much worse. The original underground ghost ship has a good mysterious atmosphere to it, and Bubble Blastoff is a pretty fun star with some unique planets, like just literally a watermelon and a mini-scaled gateway. If Alex had this script, it would be way different and a lot more positive. I just think Deep Dark is somewhat generic and feels gray, unlike a lot of the Galaxies I ranked it lower than.
I really like this one. I've been talking a lot about how much I love long jumping, and this level is long jump central. It's also very relaxing to me for some reason. I think that the arrangement of the old athletic theme from the original Mario games is very pleasant and it just sort of puts me at ease. It's got a nice look to it too. Overall, a very nice galaxy with a cozy aura to it that I can't really describe.
Alex and I try our best to avoid bosses and level rankings as much as possible, although it's pretty hard to do so when the entire galaxy is a boss arena. So for the galaxy bosses, for the boss galaxies, we figured it'd be easiest to just count the bosses as components of their respective levels. Kingfin's decent, his mechanics are unique, and for an underwater boss he surpasses expectations, but I won't get too into him as we already have a boss ranking for this game you can check out through our recent uploads. Bonefin's a cool looking planetoid with great interior design, and the overall feel of it being some sort of underwater ruin or graveyard matches Kingfin's aesthetic and boss fight, making it decently fun.
I like how they went for a Mario 64 Bowser level kind of feel for these, but they err a bit on the shorter side, so it's hard to appreciate them fully. You've got classic Mario obstacles like fire bars and thwomps, and some twists to make it more at home in Mario Galaxy like wonky gravity to keep it fresh. If it was longer, I'd have this a good deal higher, but as is, it's just a brief prelude to pummeling Bowser.
Bowser Jr. got shafted in this game, and because all of his planets are basically just boss fights, logically we sort of have to rank them based on our ranking of their respective bosses over the planets themselves. From a visual point, his lava reactor beats out the other two, but aesthetic can only carry so much. You can check out our boss ranking once again for an actual in-depth analysis of not only King Caliente, King Fin, and everybody else, but for what it is, this is a passable galaxy at best.
The planet you land on is as uninteresting as it gets, but Megaleg kicks ass. He alone carries this galaxy as high as it is, although for the specifics we'll once again have to direct you guys to our Mario Galaxy boss ranking video.
This level is just the best of both worlds, as in its actual platforming versus one-step level design leading into a boss fight. While it's not too much of a challenge, the extensive cannon bit is enjoyable and the Spranglers make the generally easy section a tad more interesting. Bowser Jr.'s personal airship is our number 2 boss in the game, in turn making the airship armada the best of his 3 galaxies.
While a bit longer than Bowser's Star Reactor, I find his Dark Matter plant less fun personally. It's definitely got more substance and more memorable platforming, but I find the section where you traverse the gravity room to be sort of dull. The platform you ride there feels a bit too slow to me and it just kinda kills the pacing. Every other part of it is pretty fun though, so I can see why Jack likes it more than I do.
Sand Spiral is all around entertaining, from a visual to a soundtrack and especially a gameplay perspective. That being said, choosing a favorite snack is on the shorter side of stars, and I'd also argue the choice in the name is misleading. It's less of a choice and more so natural selection and process. Boo Mario wipes B Mario in every category, but most important, functionality, and for the select few who do go with B Mario, the level still has unique linear platforming meant to hinder whichever power-up you choose. The farther down we go, the more of a trend it'll be that the level's core mechanics are the basis for their platforming bits and name. In this case, the second half of the level is quite literally a desert-themed spiral with the little Princess Moon in the center. The Rainbow Star is one of the best power-ups in every game, and a mad dash with semi-difficult platforming renders no complaints from me.
Gusty Garden is interesting in that its theme was so loved that it managed to worm its way into a multitude of Mario games not even related to the Galaxy sub-series. Mario Kart 8 is the first example that comes to mind, but I know there are others that aren't popping up in my head at the moment. Gameplay-wise, it's good fun too, especially the third star. I really like navigating the gravity block structures and flying around when you spin the arrows. That stretch at the end with all the cannons is surprisingly tricky too. The other levels are decent, one of which caps off with the Major Burrows boss fight and the other with a rabbit hunting sequence, which I actually liked for some reason. Normally I find the rabbits to be a pain like in Snowcap Galaxy, but here it was totally fine. I think I like the planet a lot as part of it, lots of long jumping to be done and stuff to navigate. Great music, fun gameplay, and appealing design make Gusty Garden deserving of its fan favorite status.
Battle stations in space are some of my favorite fantasy creations, and while it's no Death Star, Dreadnought holds its own against the first-rate galaxies of the game and features some memorable stars among other, more familiar ones. One in specific comes to mind, Revenge of the Top Men, which I'll give a pass for the episode 3 shoutout, or at least I think it is. In one final plug, if you really want to see our thoughts and analysis of Top Maniac, check out our boss ranking. Otherwise, Infiltrating the Dreadnought has some of my favorite vertical platforming in the game, especially the final planet, and the Colossal Cannon Star is unique in its own right as well. With great purple coins and the better of the two bomb dumps, Dreadnought's 6-digit arsenal of well-made and enjoyable power stars make it deserving of a top 10 spot.
Despite only having one level, Bowie Base is an incredibly memorable experience that serves as a prime example of vertical platforming done right. Starting off with a brief water segment is a cool idea, since it's not likely to take a while to get through but contributes a lot to the feeling of the galaxy. Once you bait the bullet bill into shattering the weight, the base rises and you're able to begin the ascent. Your trip up is paired with some very iconic music and a handful of obstacles, varied enough to stay fresh all the way up. I dig the little Pokeball planet at the end also. I love tower levels in games so long as they're done right, and Bowie Base definitely pulled it off.
The galaxies of these games benefit from having usually 4+ levels around half meant for when you first unlock it, and the rest for mid to late and even endgame. Good Egg is a prime example of the multi-level galaxy approach. While most first levels or first areas in games are highlights in terms of world design and memorability, by the end of the run they're easy and a majority of the time pale in comparison to almost all of the levels succeeding it, take the Undead Berg. Good Egg is definitely a nostalgia-fueled event, but it's undeniably well structured. Because this is the first level in the game, each and every planet in each and every star is recognizable, and even replayable if that's your thing. Fun is about the best word I can use to describe this galaxy, and it's a pretty spot-on description at that.
For some reason I really like desert areas in games, so of course I love this galaxy. I think my favorite star is the first one, since I like climbing up that big tower with all the wall jumping and tornadoes and stuff. All of the stars are pretty good though, with the exception of a few segments of the third one that I don't care for, like the drawn-out feeling Starship Collection planet. Otherwise, it's got plenty of iconic planets like the aforementioned tower, the flat one with 2 sides, and the upside-down capsule thing in the third star. I love those capsule-type planets, they just look appealing to me. Dusty Dune Galaxy is an all-time classic that cements my firm belief that the bedroom is the best dome by a mile.
It's no coincidence that almost the entire top 10 galaxies are themed and qualify as core galaxies within their individual domes. While most of these stages tend to contrast within themselves, e.g. Freeze Flame, Space Junk Galaxy contrasts the terrace in general. Having a fun boss like Tarantox never hurts, and traveling from junk to trash and back and forth is really fun for some reason. Hell, even Camella's alright, and other passive stars like Polestar Path or Yoshi's Unexpected Appearance are enjoyable and hands-off just like the rest of the galaxy and make for a fun time.
Jack and I actually disagree a bit on this. I basically think of Dreadnought Galaxy as the cooler version of Battle Rock, but that's not to say Battle Rock isn't cool. I'm a fan of the music here as well as the general aesthetic of it. It's got a cool vibe that I like where you feel like you're breaking into this big military base and blowing stuff up when you leave during the launch star sequences. My favorite part is the one where you shoot yourself into that crystal containing the Luma. I just like how that part looks and it's good fun too. The creativity in this galaxy is pretty impressive and it's always a good time other than the obnoxious garbage heap star, so we both agree it ranks pretty high overall.
In terms of themed galaxies, Toy Time is pretty much in a league of its own. With the exception of the Underground Gunner, who, as I quote myself, affects my overall opinion on Toy Time. And yes, it contrasts what I said earlier about bosses not affecting areas, but Lost Izalith isn't really that bad, yet it finishes off with Bed of Chaos, so it is that bad. I can't keep up this tirade of negativity, however. The Mecha Bowser Star is another phenomenal example of how to do unique gravitational platforming, and even bouncing down Cake Lane, as much as I despise its boss, is memorable in a good way. Most galaxies have short one-off stars that are usually puzzle-esque and require a bit of tricky thinking, and my favorite out of any in the game is Flip Switch Chain. It's just super fun like the rest of its galaxy, and without a doubt the unique and great qualities integrated into Toy Time Galaxy make it well deserving of a top 5 placement.
This is the best level in any of the 2 Mario Galaxy games in my opinion. It's a perfect send-off to the game, featuring a bit of almost every mechanic and having planets of every theme and variety to keep you entertained. Visually, I find it to be really well made, and it's a super fun to play level to boot. Unlike the other boss levels, this one is pretty hefty and has some substance sorely lacking in the other ones. The final Bullet Bill hallway tunnel, for example, is a tricky moment that's very memorable and fun to get through. Not sure if it counts as part of the galaxy, but I really like the ending to this game too. Overall, this is one of my favorite final levels in any video game and is my personal number 1 pick, as you saw on the slide.
Fire and Mario, like flour and butter. Lucky for me, almost every Mario game ever boasts large numbers of fire-themed levels, Galaxy 1 and 2 explicitly. Freeze Flame is just about the cream of the crop, but it loses out to the Pure Flame Melty Molten due to mainly purple coins on the summit. Otherwise, it's got the best Cosmic Comet and overall just a great contrasting theme that the Galaxy games pull off so consistently, with Freeze Flame as a prime example. While the bulk of it is ice-centric, it has its fair share of fire flower and lava engulfed sections, and if there was ever an example of vertical platforming, it'd have to be conquering the summit, which reminds me of one of my favorite Mario 64 paintings, and also one of the only I like anyways, Cool Cool Mountain. This game's unique and daring approach to contrasting world design makes for legendary levels like the Freeze Flame Galaxy.
Melty Molten is great because it provides something otherwise lacking in this game: challenge. Mario Galaxy is a pretty easy game, and even the levels that'll kill you a bunch like Bubble Blast Galaxy are better described as unfair bullshit than a proper test of skill. But Melty Molten, even just its normal stars, is a slightly tricky to navigate area. It's got some test of your platforming skills in the first star mainly, while the second has a hard starball segment at the end that I was a fan of since I personally like the starball, believe it or not. The Sinking Lava Spire is an awesome iconic star that has some great visuals paired with it on some of the launch star transitions between planets. Lava levels in general are usually pretty cool, ironically enough. Take Freeze Flame Galaxy, which we just talked about. Literally my only sort of complaint is that there are too many similar star chip hunting planet segments, which messes up the pacing a bit and feels repetitive. That's pretty minor though, and Melty Molten is still great enough to claim the number 1 spot on our combined list.
Thanks so much for watching. We can't wait to rank the bosses and galaxies of Mario Galaxy 2, and we also can't wait for you guys to watch those videos because they will be a blast to make, just as the rankings for this game have been as well. Once again, we'd like to thank you guys so much for watching. Remember to like, subscribe, and if you're in the mood, leave a comment on what games or bosses we should rank, or just an opinion, but either way, with that said, deuces.